lads, we're back.
They're back.
Hey! Special episode, May 3rd. Do you guys know what tomorrow is?
May 4th.
Indeed. May the 4th be with you, a national holiday. Did you guys see that? Apparently, I think The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, or mainly Rise of Skywalker, is finally coming to Disney+.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
yeah, because all the movies will finally be on. So I'll tell you guys, that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Building my new Lego that you get tomorrow, and watching Star Wars. But speaking of Star Wars...
9 of them?
All 9 of them.
In one day.
Solo and the second half of Rogue One, because that's the only good part of it.
Sorry.
Fight me, it is.
Well, the last
Not
30
good.
seconds. But
No.
Just watch it like halfway. Just convince someone to just watch the half. What like happens if they go through and like what led to all of this?
it's just Darth
When-
Vader.
No. That's amazing, but
That's the best
when they get to the actual scene, when they actually start attacking that planet, if you just look at that as like Cosmo Venari Hour is a really good YouTuber who says like if you just look at that last third of Rogue One is like this short film and it's just like storming the Death Star. To get the plans from the Death Star.
Yep.
It's really entertaining, and then it's capped off, but you can see some pretty serious fan service with Darth Vader. But you know what's really funny? Episode 11 of the last season of Clone Wars aired last week, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but like, oh my god, it was so good. And a character kind of has a scene where it mirrors that Darth Vader scene from Rogue One. But I wanted to start the podcast today by talking about Star Wars Clone Wars, because there were forget about any hockey news. I received some news that I've never been more proud. I don't think if I ever have kids, I won't be as proud as them, as I am with Daniel, for starting to watch Star Wars Clone Wars. So Daniel, let me ask you, where are you in the series and how are you enjoying it so far?
I'm enjoying it a lot. So it's pretty funny. I watched the movie again because I watched it when it first came out in theaters.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, it was cool. Got familiar with the characters again. I'm only on like episode 4, to be honest. I've been watching it pretty slowly. I've been watching it like here and there with The Mandalorian, so it's been cool.
Yeah. Who's your favorite?
Oh, mine? Right now, I mean, like, I think talking to other people, like, they always said I'd like to Plo Koon.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, like, drawing from the movies, I'm always gonna like Kit Fisto.
All right. Yeah, he has a pretty cool arc, 2 pretty decent arcs in the show. So keep on watching it, lads, because it is.
It sounds like Daniel has a lot of patience. The fact that he sent us a message saying he started watching it almost a week ago, or when?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's like a few days ago. I don't know.
And he's only on episode 4, and the shows are like what, 21 minutes? Man,
yeah,
I'd be
I
like
watched them
done
to
a
like.
season. I have no patience.
I use them as study breaks, or like because I'm still marking right now.
Yeah.
So, to get rid of the dread of getting all of this done. I'm like, okay, I'll just watch one, and then I'm like, okay.
Good for you. There's no way I'd be able to do that.
Hey, fantastic show. And after season 1, it really kicks off. There are some good stuff there, but again, the animation is a bit. And as you are a fan of Evangelion, you know what you need in animations. You need really good animation. Every season, it takes a step up. We'll go to the hockey now, which is why everyone is really here. And guys, first of all, let's talk about the fact that Joel Ward has hung up his skates. And if there is a player who turned into a different player when the playoffs came around, it was Joel Ward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very just... He seemed like a completely different player, and not to say that he wasn't a good player, during the regular season, but he just seemed like a completely different beast in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like initial like those essential cog guys that like could fit anywhere in your top 9 and will like do the job. I really like Joel Ward. It's been a place for me. Because I remember when he was like still considering what he was going to do with his NHL comeback, what he's going to do to secure a contract, and he would practice with the Ryerson Rams team.
Really?
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
like he did all his workouts at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Oh, sweet. So, officially, our favorite retired player.
Joel Ward,
Of
yes.
course, we'll all remember the goal he scored to eliminate the Bruins the year after they won the Cup in the final. As the play-by-play of the Capitals would say, good afternoon, wait, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Boston. Anytime they lose is a great day for everyone else. But going to another retired player, a bit of an unfortunate situation. George Laraque, former Montreal Canadian, tested positive for COVID-19. He's also an asthmatic, as he revealed in an Instagram post. So we're all rooting for you, George Laraque. If he was one of those, a great career, 700 games play, even though he was more of the enforcer type role, one of the real last of his breed. And yeah, it's just, he's been a lot more involved with the Habs a lot the past year, since I remember there was that report that he was working at a McDonald's or Tim Hortons. And I guess from there, like, everyone was laughing at him about it. It was really unfortunate, because this is a guy that, like, he played the game hard and all that. So yeah, our best wishes to and best recoveries to George Laraque. And also tomorrow, it seems like everyone's taking a step forward with COVID-19. Some stuff opening, especially in the States, taking
here.
steps. Yeah.
Here it's just a couple things.
Yeah, but it is still steps, small steps forward, steps nonetheless. And at this time, even if we are moving forward, we should, again, thank all those who are in the front lines working and all that, everything they've done to help flatten the curve. And even if, ladies and gentlemen, there are some restrictions being lifted, don't be an idiot out there, please. Hey, guys, about that, well, let's talk about some other idiots, especially the Chicago Blackhawks. They fire President John F. McDonough, and this guy, when he got to Chicago, he turned them into the winners that we knew them as before the whole Panarin trade. Pekka Rinne completely blowing up that franchise by, being the goaltender that had more points than half of their the Blackhawks forwards in that famous sweep in Nashville's run in 2017. So what do you guys make of what may be the first of many changes, I guess, we can see coming in Chicago?
For me, I think this, personally, I look at it as, this could potentially be something that could potentially lead to more, like, bigger changes. And last year we saw Joel Quenneville obviously let go. There was always a rift, obviously. It's always seemed like there was a rift between him and Bowman. Even when they were winning, that was kind of a bigger story than them actually winning, was the fact that they were constantly butting heads. Now, this year, the biggest thing for me looking at this team is, they won 3 cups, but at a certain point, things come to an end, right? And I think this is kind of that full circle. And, he won 3 cups with the team. He's probably going to get hired soon, anytime. So I think this leads to bigger changes. I think the team has gone in a weird direction lately. Signing Leonard didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, considering the situation of the team. You think they're retooling, bringing in Leonard only to trade him. You think that Leonard was the obvious choice to resign. What are they going to do with Crawford? I still don't understand why they brought back Andrew Shaw. That seemed like a mistake the day they made that trade. It just seems the last few years, and really it feels like since they got swept by Nashville, it's been mistake after mistake, trying to fix the problem, but really only seeming to make the problem worse.
Daniel, let me ask you this, because from all sort of whispers coming out of Chicago, it really sounds like an internal hiring is coming to be their new president. And it seems to be that Blackhawks fans, that's the last thing they want. If you're in the position of running the Chicago Blackhawks, who do you get as a replacement for John F. McDonough? Because the guy really was, everyone praises Bowman, and deservedly so despite the past few years, but John F. McDonough was really, if you look at it, an architect on that team. So what do they do to replace a guy like that?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. Like, I kind of agree with a lot of Alex's points, where I think before you kind of do something like that, you kind of have to understand what you kind of want to do with the team. Because what we talked about was when you take what Chicago was before McDonough was something like completely different. Like now it's an idea of like when you think of retooling, like we've mentioned the Robin Leonard signing. The two things that really didn't make sense to me was they got Calvin DeHaan and Alimata. That really like those are not guys that you're not gonna. What I thought about was like you're not gonna build on Keith and Seabrook anymore. Like why would you bring in these guys?
Right.
Those
and like the Henry Yokiharu trade, that one was weird to me.
Yeah, that was there were a lot of people questioning that deal. Apparently, the Blackhawks thought they knew something that other people didn't. But what's really weird is you bring up Mata and that those like out Mata and Calvin DeHaan scream to me, "Hey, I'm rebuilding franchise in NHL 20. I need some stopgaps. Yeah. Let me grab those guys."
Yeah. In terms of that question about who'll be the next president, I think they could go two ways. So they'll go one where they're gonna go with someone that's like not relatively unknown, but someone that doesn't have that big name. Where you could gotta go like, okay, let's steer this ship and try to win back like enthusiasm for this franchise. Not sure what's gonna happen with Kane and Taves like now that they're like in their 30s, but a second one would be. You'll get, I don't know, I kept thinking Chris Chelios because I'm like, it's a guy that has management experience, but at the same time, like, he has that big name that would be, like, kind of reignite that whole, like, enthusiasm over the Blackhawks.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, can I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. You said something about them being internal. They're going to do an internal hire?
That's what it sounds like, yes.
Can I be honest? I wouldn't be surprised if they move up Stan Bowman.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
They'll do what the Panthers did to Dave Talon a few years ago. Kick him upstairs and hope he doesn't.
What happened this year with George McPhee, right? George McPhee took up president, and now what's
Kelly McCrimmon.
Kelly McCrimmon is now GM, and the same thing was kind of happening in Detroit. Right, everyone knew Steve Yzerman was kind of moving his way to Detroit. Ken Holland was offered the position of president of hockey operations. He ended up moving to Edmonton, but I wouldn't personally be surprised if Stan Bowman is moved up to president, and they bring someone else in to be GM.
Mm-hmm. Can I find this kind of funny? So, for me, it feels like it's like if they bring up Stan Bowman, it's like damage control in a way where like, yeah, they're promoting him, but he's not in charge of like doing those negotiations anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of like Paul Holmgren remember when he went on the Flyers, he did like the Briskelov, the Carter, the Richards trades. And then when they figured out like it wasn't going anywhere, they bring in Ron Hextall.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, and then Hextall does all the right things and then they can him.
Yeah.
Fools. The Blackhawks, also a really interesting franchise that you can say what you want about one of these people, but they've produced some pretty, successful general managers over the 2 years, of course. Huge asterisk next to Marc Bergevin, but someone who has securely had a job for 8 years in the Montreal Canadiens. And, of course, Kevin Cheveldayoff is another one, GM of the Winnipeg Jets, who, with everything going against him, has done a fantastic job. I'll tell you something that doesn't look to be very fantastic, though. And Steve Yzerman, you mentioned him. He wasn't even a fan of this, and this is the best thing for his team. Anyway, though, the NHL looked to be pushing to have the NHL entry draft done in June, aka before a playoffs.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a very good thing, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just read everyone a little quick snippet from Elliot Friedman's 31 Thoughts, aka the Holy Bible of hockey content. Quote, Friday night, after teams received the NHL's position papers on the possibility of a June draft, there were several reactions. A couple were, quote, they're really trying to convince us, aren't they?
Yeah.
Some will change from the opinion of this is terrible and I don't support it. Now, one expert I really want to mention here is during a Fox Sports Detroit Facebook live chat on Thursday, Detroit GM Steve Yzerman voiced his opposition to the idea. Quote, my thought is, why would you do that? Why would you need to do that, Iserman said. There's a lot of things that are affected, obviously. The draft position hasn't been established. We don't know who's in the playoffs, who's out the playoffs in some cases. But at this time, my own opinion is I haven't heard a good reason why we should do it prior to the end of the season. Yeah. If we do conclude the season over the course of the summer, end quote. And by the way, a key part of this proposition is the draft lottery. For Detroit, a.k.a. the team Iserman runs, the worst case scenario for them would be second overall instead of fourth. And he's not even for it.
Yeah.
And he's guaranteed Byfield or Lafreniere or Stutzel, wherever you want to take.
I think there's, looking at our, looking at the document we were looking at for today's episode, I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot in that there's two ways to there's more than two ways, but I think if we want to narrow it down, there's two ways to look at why they want to do this. The first one, or why they shouldn't and why they should. Number one, why they should do it is it's obviously, it's more business wise. Is Adam here? Adam's not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Sorry. Your video went out. My bad. Your video went out. I thought you left. Okay. The first reason, it's really purely business. You look at what the NFL did. The NFL had their best draft ever. And they did it online. Why? There's nothing else happening. There's a UFC pay-per-view event next Sunday. They're probably going to do extremely well. Any sport event right now would, in most cases, do very well because there's nothing else to do. Literally, what else are you going to do on a Saturday night, a Sunday night, a Monday night, whatever day of the week? There's nothing else. The league that's been the most quiet, if you look at the big four leagues, the league that's been the most quiet has been the NHL. The NFL has had a draft. The NBA has pretty much been leading the front on most things. The MLB, they just did whatever they did to the Boston Red Sox, and they're another one because they're supposed to be playing right now, who's been on the forefront of saying, hey, let's get games started. Whereas the NHL, we've talked about before, usually follows whatever the NBA does in the most part. For them to branch off in this way and say, hey, we're going to have our draft these 2 days, this is how we're going to do it, makes sense from a business standpoint because they've been quiet. But if I'm looking at the opposite side, and I'm leaning more towards, hey, I don't really see how this works for the business within the NHL itself, not necessarily how it's attracting other people. I think it doesn't make sense to do a draft now simply because because there's so many different things that you have to fix where you're saying, okay, if we wait another month or another 2 months and hey, we're not going to have and we're not going to finish the season, fine, wait, apparently we need another month to get ready for the draft, whether that be the lottery, set up, how are we going to run it, which is understandable. I can't imagine it's easy to run a draft online when you've never done it before. But right now, when you don't know what's happening, I read online that Romanov isn't necessarily, he doesn't know if he's signing a contract now or if he's signing a contract when the season's officially canceled, or whenever. There's a lot of things up in the air. So what happens? You're gonna draft. Let's say Detroit drafts Alexis Lafreniere. Is Alexis Lafreniere playing if they finish the regular season? My answer is no. My answer, he should not play. Right?
Well, there's also the question of what happens if the CHL continue in the Memorial Cup get there, because you imagine
they already canceled that. It's officially canceled.
Oh, okay, never mind.
The AHL hasn't officially canceled yet. it's what I've read. It seems like it's more likely that they're going to cancel their season too. But the CHL and the Memorial Cup, I'm pretty sure all gone, like for the rest of the season. Now, I think it's in 31 Thoughts too, or it was a couple days later, that here's what the league has suggested. So the first one is conditional trades, right? That's what a lot of people are saying. So the league would propose solutions. The team would have 7 days to either reform the deal on terms acceptable to both or accept the NHL's idea. And I can imagine that
is
what the NHL is going to say is, okay, your first round pick, roll it back to the next year or roll it forward. The second one, using each team's point percentage to determine the order selection. That's under the current playoff format. So 16 teams would be out of the lottery and 15 would be in. I don't see that as an issue. I think if the season ends up being canceled, I think that's something they look at doing either way. I don't see that being an issue. The last one, changing the lottery format this season only, picking just one winner and limiting any move up to a maximum of 4 spots.
Which is reasonable.
Yeah, let me agree. So I know Vancouver, I think it was Jim Benning or someone from Vancouver came out and said that, hey, we're fine with this because they would rather give up, I think it was the conditional pick to the Devils because they own the pick that was originally the JT Miller deal that Tampa then sent to New Jersey for, which the exact player I can't remember. But
Blake Coleman?
Blake Coleman, that was it. Thank you. Instead of a pick that they don't know what's going to happen with next year. It just seems like a bit of a... It's just... I don't like it. I think it's really silly. Especially, like, these are, some deals, like, deals don't come together just like that. Now, if it's a quick, like, Matt Hendricks deal on deadline day, that's going to be nothing. But for the crazy conditions like a Vancouver JT Miller pick and that, I understand the circumstance, Daniel, but is it not a bit stupid that now the league are going to go out and just, give ultimatums to team for deals that they really have no business manipulating, I guess.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to restructure everything based on okay, how can you get this done? I'm not really too sure how it's gonna go. I know with the NHL Draft was a thing that happened and it happens in the playoffs. So the two things I thought about were I agreed with the NFL kind of showing that set precedence how to set up an online draft. I really kind of I liked how they did it, and people are sports deprived. They're gonna tune in regardless what it's gonna look like online. I think so. Second, what I kind of thought about the draft picks thing is if it comes before the playoffs, they could try to make something kind of like the MLB where the draft happens during the season, and they're gonna say unless they make a contract right away, the guy doesn't play. He gets sent down, or it just he's in the system, but he's not part of the current playoff team. Or it's same thing I'm gonna take for the MLB too. Is you have your set playoff teams already, 40 guys, for example, the MLB when the rosters expand, and then from that everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of things that I kind of just thought about. Where I guess we've talked about this before, but we didn't know how long this was going to drag on. But seeing that this is a long-term thing, these are some things worth considering. But going back to that last point with the conditional picks, yeah, I kind of agree. If you kind of push it another year, you can see where that goes. But it's just interesting. I keep thinking of the San Jose pick, or I'm thinking of that. I know that's already kind of locked in.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's these kind of things where it's dependent on if a team makes the playoffs or not. It's or the best or the worst of the pick. I know Carolina gave that away. One is their pick or Toronto's pick,
right,
to New York for
Brady Shea.
It's
Brady Shea.
Which one it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the one that is I believe it's the higher one.
Yeah.
So you talked about the San Jose pick. So this is from Ian Mendez. He tweeted this out, I think, yesterday or a couple days ago. So a June draft using the old system would be the ideal situation for the Ottawa Senators. The Sens could only end up with these 4 top of draft scenarios. Number 1 and number 3, number 2 and number 3, number 2 and number 4, number 3 and number 4.
So
That's good for
San Jose kind of shot themselves in the foot with that one.
Hey, I don't think anyone expected them to be this bad, especially this quickly. We knew it was going to happen, but
Josh Norris is the one who surprised me of that trade too. Like I didn't think he developed like this.
Great name.
For me, when I remember seeing that trade, and the first kind of thing I heard about Josh Norris was that he was buddies with Brady Tkachuk, and I'm like, man, you did not make that deal because of that. That's no way you made that deal. Now I think he's proven himself. I think could be an NHL. Like obviously he's going to be an NHL player. A matter of when.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he got some look at the NHL this year in games. I remember. I think his first one was against the Habs, and hey, you noticed him, right? So,
yes.
Hey, we'll go to another pretty major subject that's come up, and that is something we talked about before the show started, and that is the idea of the exceptional player rule when it comes to maybe changing the cap a bit. Now, this is from KD Sports. This is a player agency, and it's by 2 agents, Kurt and Brian Schultz. Well, I know I'm not going to say that right, by the way. They represent players like Dylan Larkin, who's the guy in Nashville, like Matthias Ekholm, like that. There's a really funny thing in this article, by the way, when they mentioned Nathan McKinnon and him saying that he was going to take less. He's not a member of this group, so I thought they were trying to kiss his butt. But anyway, guys, there's nothing more boring than escrow and talking about the 50-50 split and all this type of stuff, right? Like none of us like it. It's really the most boring thing. But anyway,
and I don't understand it. So
exactly. So one of the biggest issues with the league is when you look at comparable salaries from, and this is what they have very much on this article. It's on their the KD Sports website. I'm going to read you guys the probably highest paid players of the Big Four sports leagues, being the NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL, from the 1999-2000 season. Starting with Shaquille O'Neal, making $17 million. Troy Aikman from the NFL, making $10.7 million. Albert Bell in the MLB, 11.9, and Jaromir Jagr in the NHL, making $10.4 million. Now, again, this is 20 years ago. Now, let's compare. Now in the NBA, the highest paid player is James Harden, making $42.7 million, an increase of 149.5%. In the NFL, Russell Wilson, $35 million, 225% raise. Mike Trout in the MLB, $35.5 million, nearly 200% increase. And in the NHL, Connor McDavid, 12.5, an only 20% increase.
But there's a reason for that, right? Like it's more than it has. For me, looking at that, I don't think that has to necessarily do with the cap, though, because 3 of the 4 leagues that you just talked about have an implementation of the cap. The only league that doesn't doesn't have a hard cap is the MLB. Now, it does have luxury tax. The NBA has luxury tax. I don't know about the NFL. If they have a hard cap or if they have a soft cap. Don't know off the top of my head. But either way, I think that's more a idea of how the sports have grown. Like if you go to the US and you ask them to name the highest paid player in the NHL, most of them won't have an answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you say, hey, who's the highest paid player in the NBA, highest paid player in the NFL, or even the MLB, most of them will give you at least a top 5 answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to just throw out like a quick little thingy there to show the NHL versus that. I wanted to start with.
I think, like I agree, there is absolutely a huge discrepancy. What the reason for that is, I think, is more more because of how popular the sport is. It's really, hockey is extremely popular in Canada. And how many states in the U.S. is it as popular as it is in Canada? Most states, I think basketball beats it. Baseball and football 100% beat it. In most states in the U.S., there's not a whole lot of places I can think of off the top of my head where hockey ranks the top.
Yeah, I don't even think I could. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. It's just pretty funny that just thinking about where we think about like the salary cap, and I just think of like the pre-2005 days and like 2002 Detroit Red Wings, where literally half that team is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So
what was that funny thing?
I was just gonna explain the exceptional player.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's pretty much, my understanding is that you have one player who does not account towards the cap. And I think it's an interesting idea. It's very similar to a concept that they have in the NBA, where if you're drafted by the team, I believe it's bird rights, then you don't, and you want to you sign an extension. If your extension puts a team over the cap, then that's fine. So
there's also player exceptions. Yeah,
it's a very,
with veterans.
It's a moderation of that rule, right? Kind of. And I think it's an interesting concept. I think it'd be an interesting idea to put in the future, because right now, thinking about it, there's, again, like I said, there's two ways to really look at this. Is number one, you look at it and say, Elliot Friedman, when he tweeted out, which is how I saw it, he said that the NHL agent Kurt Overhart advocates for creation of an exceptional player to ease salary cap concerns when NHL resumes. Teams using it could have to pay a luxury tax to those who don't. I think that's an interesting concept to say, hey, Carey Price is our exceptional player. That's $10.5 million in cap space. Austin Matthews, that's $11.6 million in cap space. For teams who spend close to the cap, which are a lot of them, and now considering that we don't know what's happening to the cap, Brian Burke has continuously said, don't be surprised if we see a rollback like we did in 2004, 2005. What's going to happen to the cap? Because a team like Tampa Bay, who's already so close to the cap, what happens to them? Imagine the cap stays the same. They can't sign Sergachev, Cirelli. They have another group of players that they have to re-sign, and now it's going to become an issue. Now, the reason I don't think they do this now is because it looks as an incentive for a team to spend over the cap by saying, hey, we're going to spend to the cap. Like, let's say the Leafs. The cap is $81.5 million. Hey, we're going to spend $81.5 million. Then we're going to make Austin Matthews our exceptional player. That's $11.6 million. That's now off the cap, and they can spend more money on it. I don't know if they necessarily want teams doing that, particularly because there's not a whole lot of money going around right now, right? There's potentially $1 billion lost in revenue if they don't play again this season, and I think potentially losing gate ticket revenue at the beginning of next season.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you with the whole rollback thing, where they have to kind of find like a remedy to do something about that, because like the way like these teams are built, like these guys, if they really want to go for it, it's always at the cap. And it's funny when you like talk about like 2005. I remember when they got out of the lockout, that like they didn't have that exceptional player thing, and it literally killed dynasties. Like the Devils lost Scott Niedermayer and Brian Rafalski, and then the Avalanche like lost Peter Forsberg, and then up until now, like that was the only time like they were really contenders. So it's kind of crazy to see how it's going to go. But I agree. Like I think it's something that could happen. Something that I think that they should let teams do, especially with the expected revenue. You know, it's not like you're taking all these, handful of teams. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like the New York Yankees where it's like, spend to your heart's desire. It's like that one certain player you could kind of take and, relieve that pressure off the roster, but still remain that competitiveness.
And I think it's I think this is potentially a good idea simply because, you're introducing the idea of having a luxury tax in the league. And for me, I think it's a smart idea because, there's a lot of teams in the league who really can't spend who won't be able to spend to that luxury tax level and won't and really could use the money. Like, there's the bottom 5 teams in revenue are like they're losing money. There's still teams in the league who don't make money, right? So to say, hey, Toronto, hey, Montreal, Boston, the Rangers, even let's say the Blackhawks, those are teams. Well, the Blackhawks when they're doing well, those are teams who can spend to over the soft cap, and revenue could go towards, let's say, the teams who don't make money. Now with this kind of step back, we were taking, it always looked like we were taking stuff forward. It's like, we really saw a lot of players get paid double digits. It started with Connor McDavid. How often are you going to see that now? Because we've taken these steps forward. Now we've taken a step back. What's the TV deal going to look like? We were so hyped up. I remember talking about the salary cap, the implications with the TV deal, with Seattle coming in, that now more revenue coming in, what that could mean for the cap. And we're talking about it going to $100 million within 5 to 10 years. We are not going to hit that $100 million unless things really turn around. Hopefully, like, if they find a vaccine, are we going back to hockey games in September? Like, there's a lot of things that have to go right for things to turn around quickly.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. One of the really interesting parts of the article, and I was waiting for this to come up, is that apparently NHL players wouldn't really like the exceptional player rule because there's that the damn hockey culture idea of I don't want to make this much more than the boys, and then just not seeing how awesome this could be if all of a sudden the Oilers got $12 million to spend, or the Habs had $10 million.
I don't see what the difference is between them being an exceptional player status or not. Like, Connor McDavid's still making $12.5 million either way. Austin Matthews is making 11.
No, they make more because they're exempt. They're exempt from like the 7. I believe it was the exact player actually gets excluded from like the escrow on that. So they do make more money, and that's the problem for NHL players. They would be making that much more because there's like 7 key elements of like salary they have to pay, like the insurance, obviously the escrow stuff, and all that sort of stuff. And you're talking about like salaries now. NHL players, like, we all knew that they already got screwed from escrow. And they're like paying their agents, but they just get like the fact that for so long we were all thinking, hey, this is sweet. Seattle's going to get the players more money. And then that's somehow not player-related revenue. Not hockey-related revenue. It's so freaking dumb. The players just getting screwed. But a league that their players are actually now on the right foot, the NCAA, are taking, like, this is a pretty step for them. Just a quick thing from an NPR article here. In a significant shift for college sports, the NCAA's top governing body said it supports a rule change allowing student athletes to profit from their name, image, and likeness, so long as the college university they attend do not directly pay them. So that basically means if you're Nike, Adidas, any of that kind of stuff, sponsorships, all that sort of stuff, ads for these players and let's be honest, if there's been one criticism towards the NCAA, it's not paying players, and now at least players have a route to make some money.
Yeah.
So
that's huge. And I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and the G League kind of coming in, and we might see a couple bigger players do that now. But, the fact that you can go to college, like Zion went to college, right, for that year. And I think he got $100 million right after he declared for the NBA.
Yeah.
For the NBA draft from a shoe deal.
Yeah.
Right? So now imagine you can do that during the year. It's completely different. And you know what the best thing is for us? Is how we might get to see the NCAA in the NHL video games. I'm just saying.
Creative player is so finicky too. It'd be nice to just
create a university team.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be sick. I love that. The Ryerson actual, something sweet like that. Another quick little thing here. There's been we're going to talk about some signings now. Now, Alex, you've been the real MVP for the show lately. That you have been all over these European signings on the Instagram page. So, do you want to take it and tell us a bit about some?
There's a couple of
players.
There's a couple of them that I'm interested in. Artem Zub. I believe he played in the KHL. There was talks of him coming to the NHL. He signed with the Ottawa Senators. That's just another guy to add to their D collection. 24. He played with St. Petersburg last year. Put up 13 goals for 22 points. That could be an interesting addition, right-handed. A guy that hasn't actually been signed yet that I'm pretty big on, or not big on, like I think it'd be interesting, is Mikko Lehtinen. He was playing for Jokerit in the KHL. They mutually agreed to terminate his contract, and a couple teams are interested in them. And there's one team who really needs a left-handed defenseman. I'm not pointing any fingers to a particular person in this call. Adam.
Mm-hmm. Oh no! Oh, I saw. I saw. He's not a player I've heard of, but then once the moment that it came out that he was leaving his team, it was like, this guy's great, one of the defensemen outside the NHL, one of the best. So
he had a really good season.
He's been their leading scorer for a few years too.
No, so he played. So this was his first year in the KHL, playing for Jokerit. So Finland, 60 games, 49 points, plus 26.
Do you have his DB up right now, or at least prospects, whatever?
Yeah.
What did his previous seasons look like?
So the 2018-19, he played for in the SHL for HV71. I'm not sure what team that is. 24 points. The year before that, played in Liga, so I believe that's Finland, for Tappara Tampere. 29 points, and 2 years in 2016-17, Kukuvola, that's the team he played for in Liga. So 25 points in 43 games. The year before that, same team, 22 points. Like, he seemed like, and that's 21. And for a defenseman to play in Finland at the age 21 seems like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's a good player.
So whatever team gets him, I think this is probably one of the bigger prospects that would sign here for this year.
Yeah, another player that has signed. Oh no, sorry. Are there any other European guys you want to talk to us about?
Well, there's just a shout out here to Linus Sandin, Rasmus's brother. Last European one, not a free agent, but a draftee, Niels Hoglander from Vancouver, second round pick last year, 2019, played in the SHL for Rogel, put up 14 points, 8 goals. He was at the World Juniors, put up 11 points.
Yeah, he was first player this year to pull off the Michigan goal right overseas, though.
Yes, and he's probably their best prospect.
Yeah. I remember he got thrown out of the game against Canada, I think, and everyone was like, "Oh boy, there goes There goes their best weapon. But hey, I hate the Bruins because they have so many weapons, and I hate when things go right for them, lads. Yaroslav Halak has extended with the Bruins for another year. His cap hit will be $2.250 million. A guy that a lot of Habs fans looked at and thought, that's a guy who's been a really good beat. He's got history of the organization. And no, he just re-signs with the Bruins, guys. So what do we think of the Bruins? Another thing going right for them.
I think that's a crazy sign. And in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way. Because this guy, I'm going to pull up his stats right now, has been spectacular for this team. This year he played in 31 games, 18, 6, and 6, a 919 save percentage. And he's 34. He's going to be 35 in 10 days. He probably would have gotten more for longer term on the open market.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
You know, so he was drafted by Montreal. Obviously, I assume, Adam, you knew that. He was drafted in 2003 when they had 9 rounds. Drafted 9 in the 9th round, 271st overall.
He's been around. Of course, Hab traded to the Blues for the Lars Eller, and he's just been around. Daniel, what do you make? Another contract for a goalie who really is a journeyman. We thought his career was done with the Islanders, but
Yeah.
the Bruin in his careers, it's another chapter.
I think, tough nostalgia. I always remember him for that 2010 run to the conference finals with Montreal. That was really fun watching him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of thing where, like, when he went to Boston, it was like short term, low risk, but I kind of felt like he really was on the decline. Like, even in St. Louis, he didn't really look kind of right. To be honest, like, I think he lost that momentum, but like now as he's getting older, he's really gaining that, and I think, it's keeping Tuukka Rask fresh. It's arguably like he's stealing games for them, and it's like the thing, like we talk about. It's another thing. It's like, man, Boston hit on this again.
Yeah. God, I hate everything about that team. Everything about them. We'll finish off the Power Hour here by, ladies and gentlemen, it's the return of Read of the Bye Week. So, Alex, do you have a Read of the Bye Week?
Yeah, it's an actual book, though.
All right.
It's not an article.
Hey, that's
So
fine.
I've been reading, or at least I've been trying to read like 2 chapters a day, and I had finished this a couple days ago. It's called Young Leafs. I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's about the 16-17 season. For the Leafs. They talk about Matthews, they talk about Nylander, they talk about Marner, Zaitsev, Brown, Hyman, all these guys that really built the team. And to be honest, I learned a couple of new things about the team. So, read of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Joyce wrote the book.
Mm-hmm. Daniel.
Okay, so it's pretty funny. I like to go offbeat with a lot of these things because everyone's on that hype about The Last Dance for Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I actually started reading a bunch of articles, like recent ones and past ones too, about his baseball career.
Right.
So there's one by Steve Wolf. He's one of the senior writers at ESPN, and they're actually talking about what it felt to have like Michael Jordan in the minors for the Chicago White Sox. And yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, they talked about like how he really struggled, but there's a guy that, like, because of his his athletic ability, his strength, and his determination, this guy, if he stayed in the MLB, in the minor leagues, he might have made it to the majors. And that's like crazy to me because we always keep talking about like basketball. Like, this is a guy where he, at the age of 32, decided, okay, I'm gonna play baseball.
And almost done. That multi-sport athletes are incredible.
Yeah.
But doing it on being arguably the best basketball player of all time, and then almost making it in the MLB, like, what? That's ridiculous.
Adam, that's not an argument. He's
mine
the best
is-
basketball player.
He is. Hey, people will say LeBron. I mean, I don't agree. I don't know enough about basketball, but
Pascal Siakam.
Bismack Biyombo.
You remember that one, Adam?
I only remember Bismack Biyombo because of his name.
Yeah, and he had a
Okay.
personality.
There you go.
Yeah, he was great. He was great on the Raptors. I liked him.
When they lost him, a guy in my history class, a guy named Cody, was so upset.
Cody
It
Cece?
was hey, watch it.
Did not go to high school.
Watch it, Daniel.
I was, Tampa Bay prospect Taylor Radish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to high school with him.
Do you know?
Wow.
We can get him on the
I don't.
podcast.
My buddy Ethan played lacrosse with him actually, so maybe you. No surprise, sick lacrosse player. I'll try though. You never. What's it like playing for the most broken organization ever? Even though you could be traded any time for an all-star because Tampa Bay.
You say broken
we don't have a pop
organization?
As in, it's just not fair. Like how
okay.
you play video, like that character.
No.
It's hacked.
Yeah, they're hacking.
Yeah.
He even found the cheat codes. He's got dirt. We do not. Even though the Read the Bye Week is back, we don't have a pop quiz yet.
Yet.
Emphasis on yet. They will come back.
Was episode 11 the last episode of Clone Wars?
No, episode 12 is. So this Friday is the end of everything.
So
Oh, yeah. I gotta catch up by then. Yeah.
Next
Yeah.
I gotta watch 7 seasons this week.
Next Sunday, we're gonna have a pop quiz on Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
All
Yes.
right.
Season 7. I don't want to make you guys study too hard here.
That's cool. It's
No,
one
thank
season
you.
per day.
You can do it.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I
Enjoy.
probably could. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would. It's a show you can watch at your own pace, honestly. And you can skip. Like, if there's an episode just Jar Jar, you can skip it. But if there's
That's
like,
gonna.
Speaking of Clone Wars, I was having a conversation last night as I was playing Fortnite with my friends. Who is your favorite Star Wars character?
my favorite Star Wars character is also my favorite character in all of fiction. That's Anakin Skywalker.
Anakin Skywalker. Okay. So Darth Vader
It's
too,
Jan-
or just Anakin Skywalker?
No, Anakin.
Because I know Darth Vader is a bad guy, but he's pretty badass.
Oh yeah, like you said, Rogue One.
Yeah, like I think if I had to choose one, it honestly might be Anakin / Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's so weird to say, but
Yeah.
or Yoda, just because he talks backwards, and I love it.
I know earlier, Daniel, I asked you about general Clone Wars guy, but who's your favorite Star Wars in the whole grand scheme of things?
It's gonna have to be Coleman Trebar, the dinosaur-looking Jedi that tries to attack Count Dooku, but shot by Jango Fett during the arena battle in Geonosis.
That guy. All right.
Yeah, that guy almost ended the Clone Wars right then and there. He's a hero.
I don't know what to say to you. There are so many Jedi. And you choose the quote dinosaur-looking guy who tried to kill Dooku and got shot by Jango.
Yeah, he almost ended the Clone Wars for
Even started.
Yeah, even before it started. I remember
You were rooting for him.
I remember when I was a kid, his figure was the hardest to find, and then I checked on on eBay, and it's people have caught on. It's $200 for his small figure.
Stop it. And, when I order T6 and I'm hoping, man, they're gonna survive this one, but you're thinking, man, he's gonna kill Christopher Lee right here. Watch.
Yeah.
Before the New Zealand dude kills him. Guys, though, let's finish off today's episode with the main attraction, the first annual 2-on-1 podcast award showcase of excellence and achievement celebration trademark. Anyway, so basically here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go through all the main awards. We're not going to do the community service one, even though PK Subban should win it every year. Don't mind me. So we're going to go through the Jack Adams, Jim Gregory, Most Improved, Vesna, the Fulton Reed, Best Defenseman, and an exclusive 2-on-1 podcast, James Norris, the Calder, the Selkie, Lady Bing, and the MVP, which will have a special name, which we will keep hidden. Then each of us will have 3 personal awards, and we will save those for last? Or do you want to do those now, guys?
Let's just do them now, so I can get my Leafs bias out of the way.
All right.
All right. Then since So yeah, then Alex, you started off. What are your three
Okay.
awards?
Most improved player. I put Austin Matthews.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. Yeah, he had a struggling start of the year, but so did half of the Leafs, and he was still putting up goals. He ended the year with 47 goals in 70 games played. But his two-way game took an absolute... For me, personally, I thought he took a huge step forward. And, that's something that's been talked about, since the day he came... Since his first game. I remember my first criticism of Austin Matthews was was overtime against the Ottawa Senators, his 4-goal game, and he pinched instead of staying in the neutral zone, and that's how we lost. But I think this year, since Sheldon Keefe kind of took over, even towards the end of Mike Babcock's time with the Leafs, he really took that full step forward in his two-way game and is starting to become that complete player a lot of Leaf fans thought he was going to be. My comeback player of the year is my second personal award. And I have to... this is all just a FU to all the haters out there. It's William Nylander, okay? Fine, he didn't have a good season last year. There's obviously reasons for that, but he came in and just said, screw all of you. You guys all suck. Turn off your Twitter machines because you don't know what you're talking about, and proved everyone wrong. Except one of the old white guys still sitting at his computer, okay? My last one is best newcomer, and that's not player, but that's coach. And my pick is not Sheldon Keefe. Okay, not everything's about the Leafs. It's L.A. Nasruddin, New Jersey Devils.
That's a good shout.
Okay, the team went 9-13-4. With John Hines. We all thought it was a complete dumpster fire. Taylor Hall's gone. We all thought it was the end of the world. Corey Schneider was not very good. L.A. Nasruddin comes in December 3rd. 19-16-8. The rest of the way. Yeah, there's a list of players coaches I could have selected. I could have went with DJ Smith. That was one of the guys I really want to go with because, he took the Ottawa Senators and they played an actually interesting brand of hockey, even though they really sucked. But I think to take the team that we all thought was absolute garbage and have them play above 500, not technically above 500, but by NHL standards, technically above 500 hockey, I think is impressive. Those are my three personal awards.
Daniel.
Okay, I kind of like three with an honorable mention.
Of course you do.
Okay, so my first one is for personal awards is the Nostalgia Award. Two guys, it's two winners for this that, they're still going pretty solid. Not too many health injuries, but they're definitely gonna be in the Hall of Fame when it's all over. So it's Zdeno Chara and Ryan Miller. So I call that the Nostalgia Award.
We're one award in. He already says he has an honorable mention, and his first award has two winners.
Hey, Alex, can you just remind me, what team does Ryan Miller play for?
The Anaheim Ducks.
All right. Continue, Daniel.
Okay, you're gonna laugh at this one. So my Carrying the Weight Award goes to John Gibson.
Why does he get that award?
Why does he get John Gibson get the Carrying the Weight Award?
Okay, I don't believe it's the Ducks are doomed by any measure or anything. They're gonna regroup. They know how to draft deep. They don't have to always get that top pick to make something happen. But this year really the growing pains were so evident. Getzlaf was still pretty consistent when he was healthy. but that's about it. Like on the team, like no one else was healthy, and then the young guys kind of just came in and had their growing pains. But like John Gibson was really their only consistent, I think, this year.
Yeah.
His numbers were down, but it's like the team's not completely like okay. I'm sorry, they're not the Detroit Red Wings right now.
They're not a pile of dinosaur crap.
Yes, like it could keep on going.
Is there an honorable mention
for carrying the weight award?
There's one that comes to mind for me, but I
was gonna say Leon Draisaitl, to be honest.
Really?
Yes, because he excelled. Like the Oilers are still doing pretty well,
right?
And then like it just reminded me of like what we're gonna talk about later, but it reminded me of like a 2011 Corey Perry when he won the Hart Trophy, where Getzlaf was injured for the rest of the season, and then he just went off and he was able to carry the team. So like honorable mentions Leon Draisaitl.
All right. Let's not egg on any more honorable mentions because we have like 12 awards.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
My last one is NCAA award. So we've been really looking at players coming in, and I think like the undisputed one right now is Adam Fox. Of course I talked about, I didn't like how he kind of like honorable mention to that one is Ryan Lindgren, but I was just talking about Adam Fox.
Wait. I think you're missing someone.
You're missing two players.
You're missing two, Daniel.
You're gonna give the best NCAA players to Adam Fox and not Quentin Hughes and Cale Makar.
It's like that's for something we're gonna talk about in other awords.
So,
that's fair.
But I'm gonna go like for me, when I look for the NCAA award, if this was hypothetically, because it's not real, I mean Hobie Baker, but I'm talking about NHL level, is guys that were not drafted in the first round.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that's a criteria. So it's a guy that not necessarily like a top pick, like Adam Fox was 66th, and the one thing else, NCAA, they absolutely dominated. What we talked about with Chase last year was like that platform at the NCAA to kind of develop your skills if you're not necessarily like a top end pick, and then you come to the NHL and you absolutely like tear it up.
All right, fair enough.
Yes.
All right.
I'll keep it at that. I had other honorable mentions, but we'll keep it at that.
I'm surprised it wasn't Trevor Zegras, even though he played 0 games this year.
And
it was. I was gonna say Troy Terry as like a Ducks bias, but I was like, no, I can't do it like that.
Man,
maybe next year.
Maybe wait. First annual. All right. My first is the jaw drop moment of the year, and it's just like something incredible to me, a fantastic highlight. And this isn't me just going against Leafs, but it's Connor McDavid's goal versus Leafs when he just undrafted. See, it's big in hockey if it has more than 20,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah.
His goal versus the Leafs has, I think, 400K, and sports could not stop posting about it for 2 weeks.
I was there, and I was in awe. I'm like, what just? I was so confused at what just happened in front of me.
Man, even when you watch it back, and Alex, you can talk to we're there. The noise from the crowd is like, what?
Yeah.
No one had any idea what just happened.
I felt sad for Morgan Riley.
Yeah, he probably went back to the bench, saying like, "What could I have done? What you want from me?"
Yeah, no idea. No clue.
I feel bad. I have the Brad Marchand Embarrassment Award of Embarrassment. This is the first annual award for this, and it goes to the most embarrassing moment of the year. And the inaugural winner is Brad Marchand for having the worst shootout attempt that will ever exist.
Good effort.
That was bad.
Yeah, great effort. He didn't even go. He should have followed Gordon Bombay's teaching. Cradle the puck, Brad. He just went over it. And my final one is the Gordon Bombay Trophy, given to Power Move of the Year. And I'd say give it to the Edmonton Oilers in their retaliation to David Rittich's stick flip. When they went in and kicked the Flames up and down the ice, goalie fights, Nugent Hopkins fighting, just fighting Monahan, just full Kachuk versus Cassian, complete madness. So bad that Rittich gets chased out and has to come back in late. It is it is the power move of the year for me, and Gordon Bombay would be proud. Edmonton, I'm getting a lot more respect for you this year. So, lads, let's go by each award, and we'll see who gave who which award. Starting with the Jack Adams Trophy, Coach of the Year. Alex, I want to start with you because I think I know who you're going to say.
Okay, so this is one of them that I had a couple honorable mentions for, or at least put other coaches I could have picked. Obviously, Dave Tippett out of Edmonton. You know, we talked about the Edmonton Oilers at the beginning of the year having Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen as their duo at the back. We weren't really sure about their defense. Like we weren't really sure about someone like Ethan Bear. You know, obviously Adam Larson. There's still a lot of hate on the guy for getting traded for Taylor Hall. We all thought Connor McDavid couldn't play. Leon Draisaitl couldn't play without Connor McDavid. Jesse Puljujarvi was still unsigned. There was all these question marks around the team, and they kind of came out just literally blazing. Connor McDavid got injured. Leon Draisaitl stepped up. That's, I think, you know, Dave Tippett brought a completely different atmosphere to the team that I think other coaches really weren't able to. The other one, John Tortorella.
Oh boy, Torts.
Obviously, you know, the team was literally depleted massively throughout the year in different areas. First with, goalies, defense, forwards. They were literally just bringing up random names no one's ever heard of. And, you know, they even had to bring up Liam Foudy from the London Knights, right? So that's another thing just to add in there. And John Tortorella was there. The team, you know, obviously wasn't as good as last year with Panarin, Bobrovsky, Duchesne, Dzingel. You know, they only really brought in one big guy in Nyquist. And Merzlikins really stepped up. There was this big hype. But John Tortorella, I think, really proved himself. You know, we all talk about him being that angry guy. And players have come, like I've heard interviews with players saying, you know, that's not really his mentality anymore. Yes, he still gets angry, but he doesn't lose it like, you know, we expect him to. But my coach, Jack Adams Coach of the Year, is Alain Vigneault. My pick from the beginning of the year, the Flyers second in the Metro. If they decide to finish out the year, they could potentially finish first. They are in the hunt for that division spot. I don't think I really had them, you know, going into the off season. I don't necessarily think I had them going into the playoffs just because I didn't know what the team was, right? Or at least not finishing first in the division. I think I had them as a wild card spot, obviously because. We all thought Montreal was going to be a different team. We all thought Florida was going to be a different team. We didn't expect the Rangers to be as good as they were. So they are the one team that I think out of any team in the league really improved other than the Oilers. I think Alain Vigneault really stepped it up with the Flyers.
Daniel.
For me I think I've talked about this quite a bit on this podcast is my unanimous, I guess, Coach of the Year is John Tortorella.
Right.
I think I've talked about it before. I love watching not Dallas Eakins. Not yet. You know, growing pains. But I kind of felt that same thing Alex kind of said, you know, hollowed out roster. But, you know, they don't necessarily play the trap system, but, you know, great defensive team. You know, they've been able to grind it out. And it's just been exciting for me personally to watch. Like, you know, we talk about Seth Jones, we talk about Zach Werenski, we talk about like the goalies like Korpisalo and Merzlikins. But for me, and this is a guy I wish I could have given him another award that we're going to talk about later on, but it's Marcus Nurivara.
Okay.
You know, he had a lot of injury problems this year. Like, he only played 37 games, but he's been absolutely solid for them. Like, he was a 7th round pick, underrated guy, came into the league a bit later. You know, he was like 23 when he finally like got everything going together for him. But it's very underrated guy. someone that you don't really look at that John Tortorella has been able to kind of put into that defensive core and make, find some fluidity in there. I was gonna say John Cooper, but like eventually when I was making this, I'm like, that team is just too stacked. So like I went with Columbus. Like,
Right.
Honorable mention is Mike Sullivan.
Okay.
For what he's been able to do with the Penguins when Crosby and Malkin are injured. But, they, even without those two guys, like, they have so much depth.
Right.
Jake Gensel, like, going off without, like,
Brian
the centers.
Rust.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing. I think we haven't heard Adams yet, obviously, but just from the two coaches that Daniel and I have picked, it kind of goes off board of what the NHL or whoever's voting really picks for Coach of the Year. You usually look like, I think John Cooper won it last year, or was it Barry Trotz? I don't remember which coach it was. It's like the team who literally did the best.
Yeah.
It was the team that we were supposed to be bad, but you got in.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
No, it was because the Islanders were not supposed to be good, and Barry did win.
That's true. That's true. But when was John Cooper? There was a year that John Cooper won. Was it not? Was it not?
I'll look at the Jack
Or at
Adams.
least the consensus was it felt like that John Cooper was going to win the Jack Adams Award last year because he had the best year.
I will quickly, the last few of the winners: Trotz, Gallant, Tortorella, Trotz again, Hartley, Patrick Waugh.
Then I have no idea what I'm thinking. Never mind me.
He's definitely been a fun. Yeah, should have won.
Stupid me.
No worries. He should have won it. It's like how Quinville. I don't think Quinville even has a Jack Adams, but he should have like 4. My coach here is a guy who I gave credit to this guy's general manager earlier, and I'm going to give credit to this coach, and that's Paul Maurice of the Winnipeg Jets. Just because I look at what this poor guy has to work with on defense, and it is just nothing. And he is somehow, with the help of Connor Hellebuck, fair enough, but has gotten a team that also, it seemed like there were some locker room cracks last year, and Maurice at the head of that has seemed to have brought all those guys together. And, I mean, you look at the work that him and Patrick Laine have been able to do. Laine finally turned into a complete player. For a fact Paul Maurice is a big part of that. So, mine's very, clear and concise here. Paul Maurice, I love him. I don't know why Jets fans don't seem to like him, but I love Paul Maurice. And he's a great quote, too, underrated thing. Daniel, why don't you start us off with the newly named Jim Gregory Award for General Manager of the Year?
Okay. Just funny with Paul Maurice, I just remember when you said the things he had to deal with. When he came to Toronto, that was when they got Andrew Raycroft as their starting goalie. So I just remember that with Paul Maurice.
Or Vesatoskala, you decide.
I know. Well, I mean, Andrew Raycroft had the better equipment, so I'd love to see him more on the ice. I don't know. Okay, it's actually one fact I remember when they did an interview. Sorry, I'll go to it, but just a random fact I remember Vesatoskala was when they the Leafs traded him and Jason Blake for our favorite guy Jean-Sébastien Giguère. He looked kind of weird because he was at the Ducks practice with his Leafs equipment still on, and they asked Toskala about so what are you gonna do with that? Why are you not changing it? And then he's like, just some equipment issues, and I can't wait to wash off the white and blue off my equipment. And I was just yeah, I automatically I forget everything about this guy.
Sorry
after
that you
he said something like that.
My bad. Sorry, you let it go 200 feet away. Jeez.
I just remember he said that. But okay, going in, Jim Gregory. Sorry, sorry, I'm thinking of Andrew Raycroft now. He had that one up thing. He never really said nothing bad about the Leafs. So Jim Gregory Award, I'm gonna have to go with Don Sweeney, to be honest. I know this one was kind of a hard one to pick for me because of the whole Boston thing, but looking back on his signings, the trades he did, the Andre Kasha trade, he's just been able to get guys. I thought about Charlie Coyle a few years back about these underrated trades that.
Never mind. Keep going.
Underrated trades where you don't really disrupt anything, where you're able to kind of just keep adding to this core that for some reason Patrice Bergeron he's still amazing at his age. Or right, like what Marchand or Krejci are getting into their 30s, like you're able to still build this team. So he hasn't rocked the boat like he did in 2015 with all those draft trades, but he's been able to do something great. And the fact that I know the Ducks have a lot of cap space, so the fact that he got rid of David Backes' contract and didn't have to retain any salary is pretty amazing.
Fair enough. Alex?
My GM of the year actually goes to Julien Brisebois. I'll tell you why. Number one, he got rid of Ryan Callahan. He got rid of Ryan, right? He was the GM who said, "Hey, Ottawa, why don't you take Ryan Callahan and a 5th round pick for Mike Condon?" What? I remember I was so upset about that trade because Ottawa literally just said, "Hey, we'll take him."
I remember that episode well.
It was like, what the hell? You signed Braden Point to that beautiful contract. I know it's only 3 years, but that's 3 years that you'll have Braden Point on a nice deal. You're setting up the team around you. Yes, you had to get rid of 2 firsts, but you brought in a guy like Barclay Goodrow. That's a good middle 6 player. You bring in a guy in Blake Coleman. Yes, you had to get rid of Nolan Foote and a first, but that's a guy you have this year and you have next year. Both in Goodrow and Blake Coleman. These are guys you have this year and next year when there's going to be a cap crunch either way, right? You still got to re-sign Mikhail Sergachev. You still have to re-sign Anthony Cirelli, right? So I think he's done a really good job at kind of bringing in low-cost players for not just this year, for next year. And another one, how about Curtis McElhinney?
Yeah.
I haven't heard a single thing about Curtis McElhinney, and I'm pretty sure that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
He's making 1.3, still a solid backup at the age of 36, right? So it seems like he's really worked the team to not just for this year, but for next year as well. Yeah, he had to give a 1st round picks and some prospects. Not a big deal for that team at all because they're just pumping prospects like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. My GM of the year is actually a bit off the board. I'm giving it to Pierre Dorian.
Okay.
I look at the work that the Sens have done as a rebuilder, and I think they've done a very, very good job of it. Now, and I'm not going to get mad at him for the Nemestikov stuff. I look at the stuff of the Carlson trade. Yeah, we looked at it and said at the time, oh boy, that doesn't look quite good. But then since then, you look at what Sharks pick is going to be. You look at the Mark Stone deal, getting Eric Branson. You look at the Jean-Gabriel Pajot deal. It's just, they've seemed to, with, him getting his own help, it looks like Bobby Ryan's starting to maybe turn things around a bit. And I look at, incredible story for him. I just look at everything the Sens have done, except for, maybe some stuff with Melnick towards the end of the season. But strictly the job here, there's a motorcycle again. I look at just the job Pierre Dorian has done, and I think he's done a really, really good job.
Yeah, I would have picked Pierre Dorian too, but the fact that the Ryan Callahan trade and you get nothing of these, like you look at what other teams have done, and you trade for Vlad Nemestikov to only get a 4th for next year, really kind of pushed it down a little. But I really think that Pierre Dorian has really done a good job with this team, though.
Mm-hmm. There's just so many great prospects, especially in the back end. We forgot Lassie Thompson, the guy we talked about on the show before. Sorry. And then I'd say stick with Ottawa for the next award. Alex, I know you named yours, but going to Most Improved Player of the Year, I was going to go with William Nylander, but looking back, I think if you had a brain, you knew he was going to be good again. So I'm actually going to give mine to Anthony Duclair, who has just really turned his career around, an all-star. Fantastic. Anthony Duclair. Daniel, your Most Improved Player of the Year.
All right, this one might be a bit cliche. Like, at first when I thought about it, I didn't think of it, but there's so many articles on it, and, like, hypothetical Olympic teams have him on it. and we've talked about it as well. It's Jonathan Huberdeau, and it's not just because of the season, but just the progression he's kind of had throughout his career. Like, he's third overall. Personal favorite of mine at the World Juniors 2012, and the fact that he's like really coming to his own now at 26. He's been able to kind of show like he. It's not just Alexander Barkov on defense, on offense on that team. Like Florida, like you take what they are for how they are right now, but he's been a guy that I think that has the potential to be a star, and he's consistent at it. So he's my most improved.
Yeah, 10th overall according to some people at NHL.com.
But Brandon Saad is better, right?
My gosh, yes, yeah.
And I thought, oh boy, is that an episode idea?
I bet Daniel's not too happy about a certain goalie being placed over another goalie.
Yeah. That was brutal. Anyway, though,
get out of here,
Alex. How about you? We're talking about goalies, so why don't you tell me who you're going to award the Vezina Trophy Goalie of the Year?
We talked about this team. We talked about this goalie earlier. Connor Hellebuck went 31, 21, and 5. Was really the backbone of that team the entire year. That defense, losing Bufflin, losing Trouba, losing Myers, losing Ben Sherratt even. Like, you think about all these guys that they lost, still put up decent numbers, .922 save percentage, 6 shutouts.
That's gross.
And, I think there was, Vasilevsky had a weird start to the season. That's another guy that could have been a guy here. But the biggest one that a lot of people were talking about was Tuukka Rask. And in the future, I think I would have given it to him. But, he only played, I believe, 41 games. And, we talked about Yaroslav Halak earlier this episode. He played 31, I think. I don't know if 41 was enough to give him the vote for the Vezina. When you look at Connor Hellebuck and the numbers that he put up.
Yeah.
So Connor Hellebuck is my Vezina trophy winner.
Daniel.
I'm gonna have to agree with that. Like Connor Hellebuck, I think it was kind of like in terms of stats and the situation that the Jets are in. I think it was a runaway award for him this year. Like .922 save percentage with that defense he has.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's been like, a consistent for that team. It's not the carrying a weight award kind of thing because they still have like those elite scorers, but it's like a Jets team that lost so much depth in the last 2 years. They're in kind of a weird transition, trying to figure out who they are, how they could contend again. So like someone that I think undisputed for this one.
Yeah, you're right. This might be. I feel like this is probably going to be the only award we all agree on. I also said Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, I mean, in this economy and what save percentage has become this year, and the fact that you put up a .922 on that team with that defense, I talked about him earlier. Yeah, Connor Hellebuck. Congratulations. Take a bow. So now it's time for the first 2-on-1 exclusive award, the Fulton Reed Award, which, by the way, the only defenseman I saw back-check watching the Mighty Ducks. This will go to the best defensive defenseman of the year, and I will start us off here giving it to Minnesota Wild defenseman Jonas Brodin.
Wow.
What a real defenseman is. Stay at home, safe. I love him.
There's only one right answer, and his name is Victor Hedman. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The best all around. I wouldn't say his defensive numbers are better than other guys like Brett Pesce and that. I read the analytics for this too.
Oh,
so.
Wow! Really, I'm shocked.
I read an Andrew Berkshire article where he talked about Brett Pesce and that, and talking about how his numbers are best defensively.
How about Jacob Slavin?
I think Slavin was probably there too, but I really like Jonas Brodin and everything about him. Really, I just think he's just a safe player. But
Brodin enough. That's the thing.
No,
yeah, I had a lot of hype for him when he first came on to the Wild, and then kind of fizzled it out. But it's like he's not a bad player.
I think that's what happens to anyone who goes to Minnesota. But hey, Daniel, who do you give the Fulton Reed trophy to?
Okay, so it's Matthias Ekholm. I think he's just been a consistent guy. Doesn't put up flashy numbers, but for the way like Nashville's kind of been this year, a bit wonky, but he's been really solid for them. Honorable mention. If it wasn't this year, was Mark Edward Vlasic.
Yeah.
If it wasn't this year, and then like I think I talked about it before about Marcus Narivara, I would have given it to him if he wasn't placed on IR twice this year.
How about Hampus Lindholm or Josh Manson? What happened to those guys?
I wanted to, but you guys are gonna think I'm a Ducks fan if I put that.
Dan, you are a Ducks fan. Stop.
I'm a big Leafs fan.
I believe you.
It's a cup.
Jake Muzzin's my favorite player.
You know what? That says something. He did play for LA, right? So
yeah, see,
it's a reliable player. Daniel, yes, I was going to say that. While you're there, we're talking defensemen. Tell me who gets the James Norris. For the purpose of this podcast, we're going to give it to the best offensive defense.
Okay, I'll give you two answers, but only one is right. So, like, I have to give it to John Carlson for what he's been able to do this year. But my heart says Victor Hedman because I just love Victor Hedman.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, I'll just leave it at that because
that's interesting.
Yeah, I was more excited about the Fulton Reed one than this one because like the James Norris one's like it's kind of like a letdown after you think about best defenseman. You wanna go away from the stars.
Fair enough. Alex.
Yeah, for me, obviously, it's John Carlson, but I think any other year, if John Carlson isn't putting up over a point per game and just taking all the headlines, I think you really have to look at someone like Roman Josi.
Yes.
I think a lot of people were talking about him offensively, simply because he was their leading scorer. I believe when the season was suspended. But I think he really took a step up this year. They trade PK Subban, and then they brought in Dante Fabro, and they still have Ryan Ellis, Matthias Ekholm, and Dante Fabro obviously. But I think Roman Josi really took that step in the right direction and really looked like that defenseman we've all been waiting for.
Exactly. Mine is also John Carlson. Strictly this year, his offensive numbers are just, I can't deny them. This is actually one that I think there's two choices for this one. Okay. The Calder Award to Rookie of the Year. I gave mine to Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche.
So did I.
I did too.
I was lucky enough to go to a Colorado-Montreal game, and there was not a player on the ice who caught my attention more than Cale Makar. His skating is...
Not even Carey Price?
Stop it. No, that was because he wasn't in net. That was Caden Primo's.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't seen a defenseman skate like Cale Makar since Erik Karlsson. So. Sorry, Daniel.
No, we all said Cale Makar.
For me, it was a really tough decision because I got to see Quinn Hughes play against the Leafs live, and he really did impress me. Obviously, I saw Cale Makar. Obviously, when they played the Leafs, I watched it on TV, and they're both really good defensemen. But I think I had to give the edge to Cale Makar.
Mm-hmm. If you're that one Vancouver fan who got mad at us that one episode, I don't care. Makar's better. Go cry about it. But you give up that first round pick for a player that you can't even use for the playoffs because you're not going to make it because there probably won't be one. And even if you do make it, you're not getting past the second round. I don't care. Moving on, the Frank J. Selke Trophy given to the best defensive forward. I give this to my man, my myth, my legend, my heart, Patrice Bergeron.
Okay. I gave it to Ryan O'Reilly.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Why Ryan O'Reilly?
Listen, I respect Patrice Bergeron. He is very good, but I really think his time as Selke winner is over.
Also has most in history with Bob Gainey, that selfish bastard Patrice. Still the best looking guy in the league, I'd say. What about you, Daniel? Who'd you go for
I went with Sean Couturier. He's been really a leading man for the Flyers. Like they're going on that hot streak that I don't think that, if the season comes back, they're gonna be able to maintain that. But I think he's the kind of guy where, he's been a consistent guy for them for their ups and downs for so long, but he's been able to kind of like really carve out like his role. I put him at more value than Claude Giroux personally. Yeah. Plays a more complete game, and like the scoring. Like I remember the first few seasons, he wasn't really a big scoring guy, but like he's been able to kind of like add everything to his game. So yeah, I'm happy for that.
I think the last few years, his two-way has really added, and the fact that he can put up points too has really combined together and like made him that player. And I think he's on a steal of a contract. I'm gonna pull up what his contract is off the top of my. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's I believe 3 more years, and I think it's an absolute beauty of a contract.
Another gem of Arizona hockey. Because he's somehow from Arizona.
Sean Couturier makes $4.3 million this year, next year, and the year after that.
My goodness.
How old is Sean Couturier?
27.
26? 27.
27.
That's a great contract right there. Yeah. Okay, we got 2 more. Here's probably like the award I just never know what to do with. Alex, the Lady Byng Trophy, who normally goes to nice guy who scores.
Yeah, so I put... This is my last Leaf player, I swear. I made it Austin Matthews in 70 games, 80 points, 47 goals, 8 penalty minutes.
Wow. He only 8?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not Leaf by. That is a good contender for the Selke Trophy. Sorry, the Lady Byng. Daniel, who's your nice guy who scores a lot?
Nathan McKinnon.
That's a good. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that
player. I don't know, has a kind face. Solid in the Tim Horton commercials. He really convinced you to get those hockey cards. He kind of
stern with those kids. You ever see the one where they're like yelling? He's like, "You gotta share." He's stern with those kids, guy.
Nice guy, but he's not a pushover. That's what I like about him.
No, hold on. How many penalty minutes does Nathan McKinnon have? Let's get this up. Nathan McKinnon. 12 pims. Mine is, this guy does have a bit more penalty minutes, but he is a nice guy, and even with some injuries, he still puts up a lot of points for a defenseman. This guy's worst year is a career year for most defensemen. It's incredible. My nice guy who scores is Erik Karlsson, because I think he needs something to go right, and I love him.
He's at least one award this year.
He has my heart. He's one of the best dressed, the best hair, the best sense of humor, and he survived in Ottawa. And I think that there should be an Erik Karlsson award forget about the Masterton. It should be awarded Erik Karlsson the Perseverance Award. But anyway, guys, we'll conclude here with the last prestigious 2-on-1 podcast MVP award of prestige, honor, and bragging rights. We've canned the Hart and the Ted Lindsay because it's the same thing, voted by either the PHWA or the the NHLPA for respective awards. So I'll start with you, Alex. Who is your 2-on-1 podcast MVP award winner of prestige, honor, and bragging rights?
I think both of us have the same answer here. It is Nathan McKinnon, and I'll tell you why. When you ask, which player on a team is your MVP, Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, automatically they get canceled out. Automatically. Really? Yeah, because you have one MVP. You have one stellar player. What's the definition of the Hart Trophy?
The player most valuable to his team, I think. I'll get the exact word.
That name is Nathan McKinnon. When Mikko Rantanen was down, when Gabriel Landeskog was out, when Nazem Kadri was out, who was still there? Nathan frickin' McKinnon.
So the Hart Trophy, originally known as the Hart Trophy, the Hart Memorial, originally known as the Hart Trophy, is awarded annually to the, quote, player judged most valuable to his team.
Okay, so who's the most... Who is that on the Edmonton Oilers?
McDavid.
Adam Larson.
But
no.
this year there was McDavid or Draisaitl. Nathan McKinnon. That's my answer. Okay.
Daniel, who is yours?
I actually went with Leon Draisaitl.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's like, the separate lines kind of thing, what I was kind of thinking about, where, they've been able to carry those two kind of lines, or Minnesota, Vetterberg, Datsuk. Thing too is like, I brought it up again, not for a Ducks bias, but like, it's the same thing as when Corey Perry won the Hart Trophy 2011. That was after Getzlaf gets injured, and he's able to carry the team. Like, I know he had Bobby Ryan and Team Solane, but like, I compared that to like Draisaitl now. Like, you take away McDavid, and then you have Draisaitl on offense. Like,
Right.
who, like, you put James Neal around him, but like, he does not compare to like
Really?
prime Bobby Ryan or Team Solane.
That's very true. I really hope the season comes back for the sole reason that McDavid's at 97 points, and he deserves to hit 100. He really does. If you've listened to this show, you know how much I love Nathan McKinnon. I was almost to the point where I was going to try and give him as many awards as possible, but I thought, no, I'm going to do this seriously. And I really do believe that Nathan McKinnon is the MVP of this year, because you look at first of all, he stayed healthy, which on Colorado not many have. And for large persons, he's missed Landeskog. He's missed Mikko Rantanen, and boom, McKinnon's been there. He's put up the points. He was probably going to hit 100 this year if the season had continued. Maybe he still will. We don't know. But Nathan McKinnon is a gem that we should all cherish, and is in a great contract. And he will take less. How much less, we will find out. Whatever that means. I'm going to take $500 flat. I don't know.
If you love the game, you should take $700,000.
Exactly, and not have your number in it. I can't wait till McKinnon's next deal is 29. It's like 10 million point 29.
$29 million.
29 million. All right, I think we're good, lads.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Well,
this was fun.
if you're someone who's listening to this podcast, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, maybe you're watching this on YouTube, you should, I don't know if you can subscribe, if you can leave a comment, a review, a rating, follow the show if you're enjoying it. Why wouldn't you? We're just three lovely individuals who love hockey, and if you're listening to this, so do you. So also, if you're leaving a review or you're going to tweet at us or something, because all that information will also be in the description of this episode. Let us know, maybe who would you which player you would give what award. If there's something you'd like us to watch, let's say a cup run, a famous game, a moment in history, I want you to let us know, and we can talk about it, because guess what? Only one person has so far, and Talha got his episode. So next, it can be you. Listener, you. Yeah, it's that. Yeah, you. You listening. I'm looking into the camera of my Mac. You. Yeah.
And make sure to check out the Instagram page for the podcast.
Yep.
Leave a comment. Maybe we'll talk about it. I don't know. Probably. And how is this Andre Markov video coming?
It's coming. I'm actually legitimately writing a script. It's not the only.
What are you holding?
Oh, this is my lamp I use for lighting. I got it from the
I thought it was a shoehorn.
It is not a shoehorn. I promise you that. Also, ladies and gentlemen, a teaser. Also, why not leave a question you have for us? Because we're thinking of buying Lego. I've influenced the lab, okay? And we're gonna build some Lego. We're dorks, I know. We're gonna build Lego while answering some hockey questions. So if you have a question for us, it doesn't even have to be about hockey. Ask us what our favorite, flavor chips are. We'd love to answer your questions. Also, we love you. Most importantly, not as much as I love Nathan McKinnon, but close enough.